Golden Globe goes to Kyra Sedgwick.
Oh my gosh.
I'm going to Mars.
Why are you going?
Yeah, no one ever asks me that.
I am.
We gotta hold on to our farms. This is our spot. It's our little corner of the world. And I'm not giving it up.
The wonderful thing about this movie is that the message is, you know, we have to fight the good fight here. Even though people die, even though we have climate issues, even though there's loss and there's difficulties and fear, we have to fight the good fight here. And it's worth it.
Hi there, everybody. This is Geoff Edgers from the Washington Post. And we're here today for a wonderful treat. We're going to talk to actress, director, musician, Kyra Sedgwick. And we're talking on the occasion of the release of her not directorial debut, but major motion picture directorial debut. I don't really know if I can pronounce that word right, but the whole David Spade presenting her with her Golden Globe threw me off a little, I'll be honest. But she has a film out called Space Oddity. It's a lovely film, which, you know, if you've seen many of the large films that are in the movie theaters, Creed, for example, these are giant films with lots of people punching each other. And this is a beautiful film that addresses issues like grief and climate change, and there are just so many others in more subtle ways, and it's beautifully done. So, Kyra, welcome to Washington Post Live.
Thank you so much. That was a lovely intro. Your intro was great, and I love that little clip. It was great. Thank you.
Yeah. So thanks for coming. You know, and I saw this film a couple days ago. I guess now it's in theaters and we can see it on video on demand. I saw it on my computer, but I'm definitely going to try to see it in a theater for that experience. But tell me something. You've directed, it sounds like mainly television, right?
Yes, exactly. I've done a lot of episodic television directing and directed a movie for television. Yeah.
So how do you come to this film? What happens that finds this film's way to you?
Richard Arlick actually sent it to my production company. I have a production company called Big Swing because we like to take the big swings. I thought it was this beautiful script. It felt like a very entertaining container that had a lot of important issues that it was trying to tackle and themes, but ultimately it was, you know, very much a love letter to the planet. That's the way I felt about it. And it's a love story and it's sort of an adventure story. It's a family drama and it's got, you know, all the great things that I want out of movies, great character development, but also felt like these were important themes for me and hopefully for others.
And you know, just to give people a very brief description of the plot, we have this young man. I know this film stars this guy Kevin Bacon, who you know, but I actually think the stars, and he does an excellent job. I don't want to slag on him, but Kyle Allen, who plays Alex McAllister, and Alexandra Shipp as Daisy, they are sort of the true stars of the film. And Kyle is playing this character who's there's something wrong, something is off. We don't know what it is exactly, but he has been selected to go to Mars, and he's on this family farm, and he's training and getting ready, and it's his entire focus. And the idea is that he will go to Mars, and he will not return. So this is a very important, you know, part of the film. You know, I wonder in the climate that we're in today, when, as I said, it takes a lot to make something. What did you have to do personally to make this film, to make it happen? Whether it's things that you had to do to make it affordable when you were filming it, and things you
Uh-huh.
had to do to make people, explain this needs to be released, this needs to be seen.
Yeah, I mean, everything was hard about it. I mean, the only thing that wasn't hard about it was actually shooting the movie. We Even though we only had 21 days and, a tiny budget, um, I'm pretty unrelenting when I really believe in something and love it. I mean, I feel like you sort of have to be in this business if you want to make anything. And it's so funny. People are like, but it's going to be really hard. I'm like, what's not hard? Everything's hard. Like, being a woman is hard. Like being in this business since I'm 16 years old is hard. Like getting older is hard. Like, winning a Golden Globe has its difficulties. So I think that what I had to do professionally for the movie was to just put everything on the line and just say, this is I'm doing this and really believe in it and just like every day, like push that rock up the hill. It was very hard to raise the money for this movie. I did a lot of calling of people, cold calling of people that I barely knew. I cold called the flower farm from California and said, "Hi, I'm Kyra Sedgwick, and I want to shoot this movie. And any interest in letting me shoot on your working flower farm for 15 days?" And also, we had to, 21 days is a very, very small amount of time to shoot. I'm certain that, maybe good things could come out of more days, but I feel like I got everything I wanted. Yeah, it's about believing in something that's so much bigger than yourself that you just do everything you can to make it happen.
And by the way, we have a huge staff here, so we have viewer mail, and Ernesto Lopez from New York. I guess he didn't want to focus it in more, but New York, the entire state. Who are the directors that have inspired you?
Oh my God, so many. I just, I worked in the last 6 years with Kelly Fremont Craig, who actually has a movie coming out called Are You There, Goddess? Me, Margaret. And I did her movie, The Edge of 17. That was a wonderful movie that to work on and to see her firsthand and the way she directed. I mean, I've worked with incredible people. I've worked with Oliver Stone. I've worked with James Ivory. I've worked with James Brooks. I've worked with Nicole Cassell, who's now very big in the sort of TV world of the Watchmen, et cetera. But I did a movie with her called The Woodsman. That was a very incredible movie. I'm inspired. The wonderful thing about being a director who's an actor is that you actually get to see other people direct firsthand, whereas other directors don't really get to see other directors. So you get to like pull, oh, I like this from this person. I definitely don't want to do that. And that kind of thing. And when I have a script that I love, when I have something that I'm about to direct, I watch a myriad of films that will inspire me, shot wise or character wise or genre wise. So I really do a deep dive into watching many people's work, and there's a lot of great directors out there.
Yeah, are there we talk about you referenced it briefly, and I certainly don't want to be the one who says, "What is it like to be a woman in rock and roll?" But we know that this has been a male-run business, and I'm wondering, when you're the director of a film, are there things you can do to bring more women, more people of color, more people who haven't been represented in film into the process?
Oh yeah, totally. And I make that my producing partner and I make that an absolute requirement. That's part of Big Swing is, diversity and women hires and people that won't necessarily be everybody else's first choice because maybe they're a little green, but they're either a woman or a person of color that, definitely has all the chops. Um, that's the great thing about being the employer, being a producer and a director is that you get to hire people that not everyone's going to hire. I think it's a huge, it's a, I think that it's a requirement as a woman to be, putting your hand down and trying to pull another woman up, whether that's, in crew or cast or fellow directors or whatever. Being a director a female director in Hollywood is a really hard thing to do. I mean, it's just a fact. In fact, there was just a UCLA study that just came out where the numbers, one would think that after the last study, things would be better, but they're pretty dismal out there.
Yeah.
I think 14% of all like 400 films that were, tallied last year were directed by women. I mean, that's just heartbreaking. So I'm fighting the good fight.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of the problem is it's not just directors. It's not just plucking directors out. It's every level of position
Exactly.
and finding a way to get people through the process. So you've directed on TV. You've done comedy. My son's favorite show is Brooklyn Nine-Nine. You've done Ray Donovan, City on a Hill, dramas. So, explain to me, as a director, when you come into this film, which has funny parts and serious parts, um, is there a conscious way that you set that tone or get feedback on it? Because you don't have an audience there in the theater responding. You don't know exactly how funny something is and exactly when to touch that moment. How do you do that? How do you balance those?
I just trust my instincts. If it makes me giggle, I trust that it will make someone else giggle. And I think that's the great thing about being an actor, right? Is that I get to do drama and comedy, and I can, flip flop between those two things. And so when you have that funny bone, I think you also have that way of knowing how to shoot something so that it has more lightness to it, and conversely, how to shoot something so that it has more heaviness to it. And Yeah, I feel comfortable in both genres, and I love the fact that this movie has all that. To me, this movie is funny, sad, hopeful, which is my jam, I think, going
Yeah.
forward.
I want to ask you about your husband, this Kevin Bacon, and for this film. He cries. Is he good at cry? Can he cry on cue? Is there a certain time period it takes to make him get? I couldn't tell. There's a point where he puts his head down. Is he hiding that he's not crying? Tell me about his crying, please.
My God, hilarious. No, he was definitely crying. Um,
Okay.
oh yeah, he was definitely crying. Oh my God, that's so funny. He is often not given the chance to cry in the characters that he plays, but he is an extraordinary actor and plays him in the circumstances of the character, and um he's going to meet the moment, and he did in that moment. And I think, to speak to that, how to shoot something heavier, there was a conscious effort on my part to try to shoot that in one take, and to just do a slow push in on it. And I feel like, maybe not you, but I feel like most people, when something is happening in the moment and it doesn't get cut into, they're more taken on an emotional journey with it, especially if it is a moment when a character who normally is holding it together tries so hard to keep holding it together, but the dam just breaks.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful shot. I mean, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, you end that shot by swinging over to their backs. So we're seeing them
Yeah.
from behind, and
Yeah.
it's very humanizing I don't know why exactly, but there's
Yeah.
something in that shot that shows sadness and age and just a weariness, but also a connectiveness. I'm sorry, I'm not a movie critic. I apologize. I got
Oh no,
into
no.
stay in my lane. Um, so
You're great.
is it hard? You have a daughter who's an actress. You have a son who's in music. You have a husband who does these movie things. Is there a difference in how you deal with them when you're in a professional situation? Is it harder? Is it easier to get them to do what you need them to do? Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, it's funny, right? That's really an interesting question. I mean, it's kind of both. And I think that, for instance, what was easier was that we didn't have trailers. And I got to go up to Kevin and go, "Are you okay with not having a trailer?" And he might not have been okay with not having a trailer because he needs a place to nap on another movie. But I'm like, I got 21 days and like no money. And can you do me a solid, So he's gonna say yes to me in that arena, and he's also going to probably be more open to my notes because he trusts me so implicitly. You know, on the other side of it, I think that sometimes you don't want to push your, child too hard, possibly.
Mm.
I think Sosie was in my first movie, Story of a Girl, and I really had to push her, and I think that and she was extraordinary even back then, for 5 years ago. I mean, she's incredible, and now the world knows how amazing she is. But I had to push her probably a little out of her comfort zone, and it's so hard to do that as a mom. You're like, oh my god, I don't want to make her feel bad. I don't want to be mad at me, So it's both and I think with Travis, who's an incredible composer, I also, sometimes it just wasn't right, and I had to go. I needed a different cue or I needed something else, and maybe that's hard from your mom. I don't know because I'm not him, but I imagine it would be.
Yeah. I mean, I always find I'm, as you know, a writer, and my wife is a journalism professor. When I really want things to be great, and I also want to feel bad about myself, I read her the story out loud because she's the only person that won't be trying to make me feel good. She's trying to make sure. Why did you do this? What? No, that's boring. Hey, can we? I want to show one of these TikToks, which my one of the powerful producers wanted to show one. They wanted to show a Miley Cyrus song. I'm an old man, so I was more into this TikTok. Can folks, can we show the
Honey.
TikTok?
New Year's Eve. What are we doing?
I don't know. What are we doing?
Every night I just wanna go out, get out of my head.
Every day I don't want to get up, get out of my bed.
Every night I want to play out.
Every day I want to do,
But tonight I just wanna stay and be with you. Ooh, and be with you. Mama.
Sorry, I know this is getting long, but I like the harmony.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Slap Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, honey. Be safe.
Ah, is that so? You're just that's typical. That happens all the time. You have a camera like the Big Brother show, and then you're reading a book, and then you just kind of do that off the cuff, right? No rehearse. You just harmonize like Paul McCartney.
Oh my God, are you kidding? Hours of rehearsal. Hours of rehearsal. Kevin is very exacting about this world, but yeah, no, it's super fun. I mean, it's always his idea, and I'm always like, "Oh, really?" But I go along, and it's fun.
This is like, again, this is like I like sometimes asking a bad question by framing it like insulting the person asking the question, and then I ask the bad question because it seems kind of dumb. But I'm sure you get asked this all the time, and I'm always fascinated by what does it take to have a great marriage? You're famous people. What do you do? And then I always think that you'll say something like, or most people, if they're sensible, will say, well, it's not always like we're singing the Paul McCartney song. Sometimes we have arguments. My house, my wife and I would say, she might agree with me, won't ever get divorced, but we argue. We have some spats over things, and we move on from it. But I'm sure you get asked that when I look at stories about you, you get asked that all the time, right? And I'm
Yeah.
wondering, one, does it bother you to be asked that? And then what is the answer to this thing?
Does it bother me to be asked that? No, I mean, I think it's a perfectly okay question. It's just I don't have the answer. That's really the answer. And I often come back with a witty little quote that we both use, which is the secret to a happy marriage is not to ask a celebrity what the secret to a happy marriage is.
That's good. I like that. I saw in the enormously long George Harrison documentary that was done years ago, his wife was asked that question, what's the secret to a happy marriage? And she said, don't get divorced.
Oh my God, that's so good. I'm stealing it.
Works, right? Um, so this decision to have your husband in the film, do you when you look forward to the workday, or you know obviously that he's a great actor, um, do you want to continue making films with him, making projects with him? Do you say I want to do this on my own without without somebody I know all of his, you sort of know his moves, right?
Yeah.
Do you think about that as you go forward? Because you've done both.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like I don't always want to have him in my movies, but I can tell you that I really want to direct him to his Oscar really badly.
Okay, okay. Um, And I want, another thing about Space Oddity is, I like music, as you can tell from listening to your TikToks. Space Oddity. So that's a David Bowie song. Do you have to go to the David Bowie estate and say, hey, we're going to name our movie Space Oddity? And then you have this incredible cover version of the song Space Oddity in the movie. How do you get that done?
It was hard. I mean, like I said, everything was hard. The movie, you're not allowed to trademark a title, so you were allowed to call it Space Oddity. But the song was in the script, and I had hoped to use the actual song. Believe it or not, it's actually easier to use the Bowie version. It's less expensive to use just the Bowie version than to get a cover. You have to get an okay from the estate, understandably. Um, and so you have to go to the estate, you have to ask them, then you have to pay them a certain amount of money. Then I had to beg Brandy Carlisle and the twins for like 2 years. I think I begged them. I was the thing that wouldn't leave. And then you have to pay them to do the cover. So it was two stop shopping, but I think it's a beautiful cover. And to me, the idea of a woman singing that song as we're sort of in his head was an interesting juxtaposition. And it's in a moment in the movie when he's at his absolute bottom, and she, with her like soulful, sort of desperate, wailing, was just a perfect. It was just a perfect combination for me.
How, uh, so Brandy Carlisle, I feel like you must have her phone number, right? You call her up and ask her to do this thing. I mean, in this movie, also just sort of out of nowhere, Alfre Woodard pops up, right? I assume you know her as well. Like, when you're making a film like this, I assume you've had years of great experience. Why don't you call in every single favor you've ever had and get every single person you know to do so? Or do you think about that?
Oh, well, I mean, I think it's important not to have a whole bunch of stars in a movie and to like build, another world. I mean, I'm building another world here, right? I'm building like this town in Rhode Island, and I don't I know that some people, and I know that for financing, they're like, get a star for every single character. But frankly, that sort of takes me out of the movie a lot. Um, Alfre is so utterly believable as like a family doctor. And I also wanted to make that the world of the film. Alfre and I did a movie together called Heart and Souls. And I did. I called her and I was like, hey, would you consider doing this? She just is like, she's the voice of reason in the movie. And I love everything. I love all of that coming out of her mouth, that she's the voice of reason in the movie, and also the voice of like, is it really so bad, that he's doing this thing? Is it really so bad? Aren't you all kind of checking out in one way or another? It's like she's really saying the problem, and the problem is not really Alex. The problem is the family and the grief and what they're not dealing with.
Right. And I do like the idea. I mean, I don't know Kyle Allen as an actor. I just don't know him. But
Yeah,
you make the new stars. You know what I mean? We watch him in this film and we go, we want to see him again in something
exactly.
doing this, and it means something. Another, by the way, another reader question. This woman, Linda Fraser Jacobson, she's from Iowa. Imagine that. Just think of the readership we have. She said, what is the hardest challenge or learning curve in making a film? I would add, explain the difference between directing a film and a TV episode. What that
Yeah.
involves.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the biggest things about the difference is that, as an episodic director who's not hasn't directed the pilot, I don't get to pick the cast and I don't get to pick the crew and I don't get to pick, um, a lot of the guest stars, so that's, and also you're fitting yourself into a predetermined frame, right? Like the frame, the sensibility of the whole show is something that you're plugging yourself into. So while I love that, the great thing about making a movie is that, I'm in charge of the whole thing. I mean, many people are in charge, but I am in charge of what the audience sees at every moment and how they see it, right? How they see it visually, what actors are saying the lines, what they're wearing, where the thing takes place, so I love being, I mean, one of the reasons why I got into this side of the business was to be a bigger part of the storytelling. As an actor, you're only a pretty small part of the storytelling, even if you're the lead, because you're not in charge of what our audience is seeing and how information is unfolding. So and also you just have a much bigger frame, frankly. You have a much bigger world that you want to, there's something very, the word cinematic is there for a reason. It's because it needs to be a large frame containing a lot of interesting things to look at. Whereas TV, it's a smaller frame and you need less interesting things, all within the frame, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that when I see some of the shots in this film, there's I think early on when Alex is lying in a field and it's shot from above, you think, boy, I wish this wasn't on my PC, and I don't even know how people watch things on their phones, which I know the kids do. You want to watch it in a theater or a big screen or something like that. Uh, do you think about what it would be like? I don't know if you've directed yourself on television episodes, but I'm curious about. I've heard some people say it's a piece of cake, and other people say I'm too busy. I don't want to be doing those two things. I wouldn't really be able to concentrate. Have you thought about this?
Oh yeah, I've thought about it a lot because I actually had a great script that I wanted to direct, but I wanted to also star in it. And I went back and forth. I mean, tortured myself about that decision. Ultimately it came to it was interesting because I actually watched my daughter did a short just as I was finishing up making this decision. And I was in the short. Sosie directed me in a short. And I watched her be the whole short, essentially, like she had a huge part, and then also direct herself. And I thought, oh my God, that looks so hard. Now, again, as we said in the beginning of our talk together, hard does not scare me. However, I care so much about this particular movie and my acting job in it that I don't want anything to get in the way of me doing the best acting job I can. So I really do hope to do it. And I actually had many talks with Bradley Cooper about it, who was really like, it's the only way to go is to direct yourself. And he was very encouraging of that. And still I made the other choice, but I do want to do it at some point for sure. I don't want to be the entire lead of a movie though. When I first do it. And he didn't do that either, which I reminded him.
Yeah. Last question because we do have to go because you have like a whole life to lead here. But I know we could talk for hours. Do you have another film that you're going to be making anytime soon, or if as fans of you, we'd love to know what's next for you.
Thank you. As a director, no, I don't have my next directing gig. I have a couple of movies, acting movies that I'm going to come out in, but I don't know when they'll come out or what festivals they'll be at or anything like that. But directing is, you said it in my little intro. It is a real calling for me, and I'm obsessed with it. So I can't wait.
Yeah. Well, we so appreciate you being here, and I hope people will go out and see the film Space Oddity, and listen to Brandy Carlisle's amazing song in the film. And look, WashingtonPostLive.com. That's where you can go to see all of our upcoming programs. And we're so grateful that you came here. I'm Geoff Edgers, and have a wonderful afternoon.